Welcome back to AP US History. We're looking at Chapter 25, looking at how the United States got into the war. Now, a significant step towards war was the 1939 Neutrality Act. Although it sounds innocuous that we're trying to keep peace, it does make us take a side. We decide that we are going to sell weapons to the European democracies on a cash and carry basis. Of course, our ships and citizens are supposed to stay out of the neutral zone. Um, Aggressors could not send ships to buy U.S. Munitions, so that left out Japan, Italy, and Germany. One of the benefits of this Neutrality Act being passed is that there's going to be a greater demand for American goods. But we're going to be inching closer to getting into this war, taking a side. The Committee to Defend America by Aiding the Allies is formed. It was urged that we aid the Allies directly, appeal to the isolationists for all methods short of war to defeat Hitler. So they were trying to persuade the isolationists to get a little more involved. Claimed that the U.S. couldn't let the Axis power dominate the world. On the other hand, the isolationists, the American First Committee, are the folks who want to stay out of war at any cost. So you have two groups forming in the United States. Overwhelming majority of Americans did not want to get involved in another war. Most have a sour taste in their mouth from World War I, believing that we shouldn't have got involved in that war. And they certainly don't want to risk American lives in another war to bail out Europe. Some would say that England would fight to the last drop of American blood, sarcastically. Wanted America to protect its own shores against Hitler, and to heck with everyone else. Something like Fortress America, defense, not intervention. So they wanted to make America strong behind her own borders so that no one could attack us, but we don't really give a rip about anybody else. One of the proponents of this isolationist policy is Charles Lindbergh, who is a national hero. And if you remember, he flew the first transatlantic solo flight from America to France. And he's telling Americans not to be involved. Then comes the destroyer bases deal in 1940. We gave Britain 50 destroyers to help convoy materials to Great Britain during World War I. In exchange, we're going to get some naval bases for our trouble. This was an executive agreement. Congress did not approve this swap for old, outdated destroyers for bases. To convince Americans that we needed to get into the war, FDR is going to come up with what he calls his Four Freedoms speech in 1941. He knows that we're going to get in war, and it's just a matter of time. Other Americans are hiding their heads in the sand. FDR asked Congress to increase authority to help Great Britain. These four freedoms, freedom of fear, freedom of want, freedom of the seas, these things are going to try to persuade Americans that we need to be in the war effort, or at least be prepared for it. The Lend-Lease in 1941, which was approved by Congress, authorized President to give military supplies to any nation he deemed vital to the defense of America. Supplies sold to these nations could be paid for later, as it was in World War I. FDR, because of this Lend-Lease, says, well, if my neighbor's got a house on fire, I'll lend him my hose to save his house, and we'll worry about the hose later. Effectively, this ends U.S. neutrality because we are firmly on side of the Allies. Hitler began sneaking American ships on a limited scale. FDR proclaimed that his American ships could shoot German U-boats on site who were trying to prey on commercial ships, British ships going to Great Britain. The Lend-Lease is going to give billions of dollars to our allies over the course of the war. Great Britain receiving the most, and Soviet Union receiving the second most. The Atlantic Conference and the Atlantic Charter is called for in 1941. This was a secret meeting before the United States got involved in the war. Churchill and FDR are going to have a conference on board a destroyer. This is the first time that these two have met face to face. Held in response to Hitler's invasion of Russia. So Russia is, even though they signed a non-aggression pact with Hitler, Hitler will violate that and attack Russia. Now, the Atlantic Charter was accepted by both nations, said that no territorial changes contrary to the wishes of the inhabitants, so self-determination. People could be their own country. Governments abolished by the dictators, Mussolini, Hitler, and also Japan, would be regained. And it also called for a permanent system of general security, which laid down the foundation for the UN. At this time, the League of Nations is defunct. It has gone away. This is the two meeting on board the warship, hammering out an agreement. Now, the path to war with Japan. Embargo was placed on Japan after she seized French Indochina from the Vichy government. Again, oil and so forth are withheld, and steel. And so, as a result, Japan feels that they have no other choice but to go and attack the United States. This.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire.
This is FDR appealing for a declaration of war with Japan before Congress.
And at the solicitation of Japan, was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific.
Now, this sneak attack is going to put the United States into the war, and 3 days later, Germany and Italy will declare war, and we'll be at war in two fronts, in the Pacific and in Europe. But our primary focus during World War II will be the Europe first and Japan second. And we're going to stop here, and we'll pick up the PowerPoint and lecture on World War II.